our business topic for this week is Medibank, which is a private health fund in Australia, was hacked a couple of weeks ago, about a month ago, or whatever it was. And they had a massive cyber attack. A whole bunch of their information was taken. My information was taken. I got an email saying they got all of this information. And I'm like, what do I do about it? Like, kind of a little bit scary, kind of a little bit invasive. It kind of feels like, what? Now luckily I actually have my own measures in place that give me alerts when there's, my information flows in places. So I have certain technology that looks out for that. But Medibank private health fund got hacked. Their response to it has been interesting, considering there was the Optus attack, recently, and then there was the Medibank attack. There was a request for, I think it was 15 million, something like that.
About 15 million Australian dollars. It was 10 million US dollars.
10 million US. So now they said no. In negotiations, they said, no, we're standing up for it. Now, Dr. Rod, that must have been a really hard leadership decision to put at risk all of your customers or your followers as a leader, putting everyone's information at risk because you're standing true to your values of not negotiating with terrorists or, whatever that quote is. How do we make a difficult decision like that? Because obviously you become, you open yourself up to other attacks and things like that. Like if you say, there's so much going on there. How do we make that decision?
Well, this is an example, I think, of knowing when to say no before you have to say no. And my understanding is that there really wasn't much deliberation at the board level, that they agreed very quickly that the right response was to refuse to pay the bribe. So they did that very quickly. And I think that's a strength of leadership.
Yeah.
And the other thing they did, and they are continuing to do this on a regular basis, is to apologize profusely.
Yeah.
For what had happened, because actually that's a way of saying we're actually responsible.
Yeah.
That they're saying, this is your data. You trust us to keep the data safe. It has got into the wrong hands. On the one hand, we're not going to pay the bribe because that's just going to encourage these crooks to do it to other businesses or to try it on us again. But we are very, very sorry. Now, the only move they might have made, which wasn't so good, was that there is a case to be made that the executive should have declined to take their bonuses this year.
Yes.
Because they did fail in a major area. They have failed to keep people's private information safe.
Yeah.
And some of the files that have been released have file names, which could be taken as an insult by the people whose data is included. So one file name, for example, was psycho. So people who were receiving counselling and psychiatric help and so on, their details were on this particular file. Now, you know what? I can easily understand, the technical boffin saying, what are we going to call this file? We need it to have a short name, something that's easy to remember, and, we can come back to it any time we want. We're not going to forget it. I can understand they chose that, but you can bet your bottom dollar that they wouldn't have been thinking at the time, what happens if the public find out about this? And some people take umbrage. So there's been a bit of a misstep there. That's something you just got to live and learn with things like that. And if I was a senior manager there, I wouldn't be sacking anyone over that, but I'd be having a discussion about, listen, folks, this is an area of risk. We know now it's an area of risk because the information got out. What are we going to do to make sure that we don't inadvertently hurt people's feelings?
So first lesson for our leaders: go back and look at your files on your computer and see what they're labelled as. First lesson. Right?
Yeah, so if you've got a file that says enemies, you better change the name. People I'm praying for or something like that.
Make it, yeah, people I'm praying for. That's really good. So I think that's actually I mean, that's a really good lesson is we should act in private as if we are in public, right? Like it's a good principle, right? It's a good, wise principle that to make sure that whatever we're doing in private, well, I mean, remember, whatever we're doing in private isn't in private because there's someone else that's watching anyway, right? So
True enough.
And he's the one that I probably care about his opinions more than anyone. So let's all act in private as if we're being watched by the king, because we are. The other thing, and going back to like the fact their apology, I remember when I first received the email, I read the email and I went, wow, it was a I actually felt like it wasn't just this stock standard bulk email that was just sent out, I felt the heart of the CEO that wrote, and throughout it, it was apologetic. Like, we messed up. We shouldn't have done this. Like we let our guard down. It was really good in the way that they were approaching it. That's a stark contrast. Obviously, we spoke about the Optus one going back a couple of months ago now. I think it was one of our earlier episodes where we spoke about how they were kind of like in denial and blaming other people and kind of ignoring the importance of it. Medibank took the other approach. Now, maybe they had learnt from the Optus one. Maybe they were listening to our podcast. Maybe, who knows? But so the fact that they took ownership, were really apologetic, that was one thing. Being able to say no, obviously knowing where your line in the sand is really important. But I kind of like, yes, we spoke about naming your files as a bit of a joke, but I think this is really important for us as leaders to also be aware of our online security. We need to be very consciously aware that it is very easy that you have your clients' information on your computer. What are you doing to protect it? What are you doing to make sure, like we've just built an app, shameless plug, link in the description below. We've got a free leadership development program where we do collect people's details. I went out of my way in the development of this to pay extra to the security has been over engineered to make sure we protect that information, and done everything that I possibly can. We need to be aware that even there's stuff just on our computer, in Dropbox, in whatever. What are we doing to protect it? Dr. Rod, how do we be wise without becoming, what's the word for it? Becoming scared? I suppose it's not the right word, but do you know what I mean? Like how do we, like, I'm gonna be wise about this, but I'm not gonna have this crush me and me be worried about this.
Well, if I can take a leaf out of the book of the past, years ago, when all of our records were kept as paper records,
yes,
we used to have rules such as the file must be kept in a locked filing cabinet in a fireproof room, or something like that. They're all different variations. So when we had paper records, we had policies, and people were responsible to make sure that the files were locked, the files were stored, say, at the end of each working day in a fireproof room or something like that, or in a safe. And we should carry exactly the same attitudes through to data which is held electronically.
Yeah.
And you must not believe that it will never happen to you.
Yes.
Seriously, because I've been on the board of an organisation that did get hacked. Relatively small organisation, nothing like Medicare or Optus or one of the other government departments and so on that have been hacked. Now, as it turned out, I think the bribe was about $3,000, so it wasn't anything like. You see, these cyber criminals, of course, they scale the bribe to
Yes.
the organisation. So we were relatively small. They just wanted $3,000. And we actually had a guy on staff who was an absolute IT whiz. He said, don't pay the bribe, I'll fix it. And he virtually worked around the clock, and within 3 days he'd restored all the data, and ultimately not a single piece of data ended up being released. So we were really blessed.
Wow.
But nevertheless, a hacker got in.
Mm.
And I think where we need to make sure we put a fair bit of effort into making sure our data is electronically locked up in a fireproof vault.
Uh-huh.
And too often the hackers are able to exploit a weakness in security.
Yeah.
So, and I think organizations need to be prepared to buy in external expertise if they
Yes.
need to. Cloud solutions are often more secure than maintaining data on your own local servers as well.
Yep.
But you get good advice on it.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in a leadership position, management, or on a board, you need to be asking questions about how secure is the information and what steps are being taken to security. In Australia and many other countries, there are legal requirements in terms of informing the authorities should there be a breach of your data. And the other thing, I think part of our culture needs to be built along the lines that this isn't just data.
Yeah.
We are dealing with people,
Yeah.
and people have feelings, and we need to do everything that we can to protect the feelings of the people with whom we deal.
That's good.
So we should stop thinking of it as data. This is not data. The information we hold, this is about real living people.
Yep.
And people have feelings, and we need to do everything we can to protect their feelings.
And let's be super practical about this. Let's be super practical. Let's just give some good advice, right? Number one is I think you should do some research on cybersecurity and talk to some experts. You, as a leader of the organization, you can't turn around and go, well, I'm not technical. That's not my thing. You need to know, speak to an expert, speak to your IT people, get their advice, but you need to understand it. Now, you don't need to be able to do the code and things like that, but you can't. Ignorance is not an excuse. Ignorance is not an excuse. You have to find the information first of all. Second of all, lock your devices. Do you have a password on your computer that every time you open up your laptop that you have to type in a password? Is it annoying? Yes, it's annoying. But is it safe? Yes. Because if you happen to be at a cafe and walk away and leave your laptop there and someone else can open it up and access all your client's files, you're not really doing anyone a favor. So are you securing that? Your phone, make sure your phone is secure. Another really big one, please listen to this one. Don't ever use the same password on different websites. Never. I was having this conversation with a client the other day, and they were like, oh, why? Like, it's just, no one will know. Here is how the hackers actually use that. Let's say, you hear people having their Facebook account hacked and Instagram and things like that hacked. And I've known people that have lost all of their contacts and lost their Facebook pages and everything like that because someone's hacked it and then changed it and then started messing everyone as that. How do they do that? They don't hack Facebook. What they do is they go to some random stupid website that you may have happened to join, right? As you're walking, as you're doing something needs to download. It asks you to create an account, and it's just some random little thing, and you like put in your stock standard email and your standard password. They hack those websites which have low security, get your email and password that you've entered into that, and then they have bots that then go and use that same email and password in Facebook, Instagram, all the way the places, just automatically. And if you're using the same password in multiple places, that's how they hack. They don't hack your Facebook. They hack someone else. You gave them the username and password for Facebook, and then they got in and then changed the password, and then you can't access your Facebook, right? And so If you use the same, I know, it's just easy. I just have one password and I don't have to remember it. If you do that, you are not secure anywhere online. And what you're doing is, I guarantee you, if you're using the same username and password on one place, it's probably same on your Dropbox or your cloud storage. And so I could find it and I could log on. We actually have a reminder on our site when people create a password. I remind them, don't use the same one as anyone you've put anywhere else, right? So if they can get that username and password to access your cloud storage, they can access all of your clients' data. And so that's your responsibility. Don't ever use the same password. Now, here's a practical solution for remembering your password, right? I use a software called OnPursPoseCUBED. That's a number one password.com. I don't get any affiliate fees or anything like that. I think it's something like $3 a month. And what it does is it's a little app that sits on my phone and on my computer. When I go to a site, it automatically recognizes that site has a password for it, and it asks me for my personal password that I use nowhere else, only in that place. I type in my password to unlock my OnePassword, and then it will automatically fill with this random long code of dollar signs and exclamation marks and everything like that, right? So I have 18 long, passwords, so make sure that you're using unique passwords everywhere. Get a software, a password keeper or something that creates a unique password for everything. And make sure you're taking your online security serious. I know that's been a little bit more practical than what we normally talk about leadership, but your job as a leader is to, number one, protect your information, but also protect the information of those people you lead. And so I hope that that's lit a fire under you. I hope that that's inspired you to take action around getting things in order. Hey, you've just watched an excerpt from the On the Cube Leadership podcast. If you've liked that, give it a thumbs up. If you've got any thoughts of how it challenged or helped your leadership, put a comment below. And we'd be honored if you would consider subscribing for more leadership content. Also, make sure you check out the playlist for more episodes like this.